Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're exploring a seriously fascinating framework on how to become the architect of your own wealth. We're diving deep into the concept of leverage and looking at why we might need to totally ditch that exhausting, burnout-inducing hustle culture and replace it with strategic value creation. The research we're unpacking today outlines a specific shift in how top earners operate, and let me tell you, it's a completely different paradigm from what most of us grew up hearing. So if you've ever felt like your intense effort just isn't matching your financial output, well, you are definitely in the right place. The source material hits us with a really fascinating question right out of the gate. Why do so many incredibly hardworking people remain financially stuck? We've all been taught since day one that hard work alone equals wealth, right? Just put your head down, grind it out, and the money will naturally follow. But, think about it practically. If that were actually true, the people working double shifts at minimum wage would literally be the absolute richest people on earth. Clearly, something else is at play here. Hard work is absolutely a piece of the puzzle, sure, but by itself, without a strategic mechanism to capture value, it's really just a treadmill. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the hard work myth. Second, the 4 pillars of leverage. Third, systems, skills, and streams. Fourth, real millionaire case studies. And finally, your 10-year wealth blueprint. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the hard work myth. So, there's a fundamental difference between the traditional mindsets and the wealth mindset we're exploring today. Working hard is, well, it's entirely about trading your time for money. It's inherently short-term thinking. You log your hours and you get a paycheck. Simple. But there's a biological limit on your hours, right? You only get 24 of them a day, which means there's a hard ceiling on your income. Working smart, on the other hand, is an entirely different ballgame. You focus on long-term value creation. Instead of just tracking hours, your ultimate goal is decoupling your time from your earning potential. Think of it like this. Say you spend 100 hours writing a piece of software that saves 1,000 people 1 hour a week. You aren't being paid for your 100 hours. You're being paid for the thousands of hours of value you just created for the market. It's a huge shift in perspective. Staying stuck in that traditional working hard mindset leads directly to some really common, everyday financial traps that keep ambitious people totally trapped in the rat race. We're talking about things like chasing get-rich-quick schemes instead of building real, compounding value over a decade, or distracting yourself with constant entertainment, binge-watching an entire new season in one weekend, instead of dedicating even a fraction of that time to specialized education. Giving in to the fear of risk, having absolutely zero investment strategy. These are all huge roadblocks. But honestly, the most dangerous mistake of all, depending entirely on a single salary. When your sole income source is one employer, you have a single point of failure. You're incredibly vulnerable to macroeconomic shifts, layoffs, or management changes that are entirely out of your control. Moving on to Section 2, the 4 pillars of leverage. To break free from those traps, you need a totally new toolkit. And this brilliantly illustrates the core framework of leverage. The source outlines 4 distinct pillars that let you multiply your results without multiplying your hours. First up, technology leverage. This is using software, automation, and AI to do the work of thousands of people instantly, 24/7, without ever asking for a coffee break. Second, capital leverage. Simply put, making your money work for you through investing and compound growth. Third is people leverage. This means building teams, outsourcing, and hiring experts. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, you just have to know how to manage them. And finally, content leverage. This is arguably the most accessible form today, using digital products, podcasts, and video platforms. Consider an author who wrote a fantasy book back in 1997. That single burst of effort is still generating massive royalty checks decades later, because the cost of replicating that content is basically zero. That is what true leverage looks like. Which brings us to Section 3, systems, skills, and streams. Let's look at the execution engine. Moving from theory to execution, it's absolutely vital to embrace the Pareto principle, which you probably know as the 80-20 rule. The concept here is that a tiny 20% of your actions generates a massive 80% of your results. Successful wealth architects do not try to do everything. They relentlessly identify that crucial 20%, those high-impact activities that actually move the needle, and they put all of their focus, energy, and leverage right there. We see this in modern business all the time, right? 20% of a company's clients often bring in 80% of the revenue. Or in tech, 20% of a software's code causes 80% of the bugs. Finding your personal 20% is step 1 to executing this wealth framework. Everything else, it gets delegated to a team, automated by tech, or aggressively ignored. It's basically the difference between riding an emotional roller coaster and stepping onto a smooth, automated escalator. Motivation fluctuates wildly. It's highly emotional. Some days you wake up ready to conquer the world, and other days, well, if it's raining, you kind of just want to hit snooze. But systems? Systems are repeatable processes and daily habits. So the crucial point is that automated, frictionless daily systems will always outperform a sheer motivation over the long haul. Millionaires build robust systems so that success becomes an inevitable byproduct of their daily routine, rather than relying on some sudden, fleeting burst of inspiration to actually get things done. Now, to actually fuel those systems, the framework suggests prioritizing high-income skills. Acquiring these is infinitely more valuable than trying to juggle 3 traditional side hustles. You can think of them in 2 distinct camps: the builders and the persuaders. The builders use programming, AI skills, and content creation to manifest a product or value from thin air. The persuaders use sales, marketing, copywriting, and business development to scale that value to the masses. These are skills that scale infinitely. They directly impact revenue, which is exactly why the open market pays an absolute premium for them. Seriously, if you can build or you can sell, you can write your own ticket. And if you can do both, you're practically unstoppable. Once you acquire those high-income skills, you don't just march into your boss's office and ask for a 10% raise. No, you use them to engineer multiple overlapping income streams. The strategy here is to stack your skills to create a highly diverse portfolio of revenue. It works like an ecosystem. Your primary business income provides the initial capital. Then that capital is systematically diverted into things like real estate or dividend-paying stocks. You might spin off your industry knowledge into scalable digital products, utilize licensing deals, or build affiliate marketing streams. The real beauty of this ecosystem is resilience. If one stream dries up because the economy shifts, it doesn't matter, because the river still keeps flowing from 6 other directions. But here's the thing, generating all that money is truly only half the battle. You have to protect it and you have to grow it, using strict financial management. It starts with budgeting, so you can actually track what comes in and what bleeds out. You absolutely must build emergency funds so an unexpected crisis doesn't completely wipe out your progress. And crucially, you have to avoid lifestyle inflation. Resisting that sudden, overpowering urge to go buy a boat just because your new digital product took off this month. Keep your baseline expenses low, and finally, aggressively reinvest those profits back into your systems. That's what triggers that incredible exponential compound growth. This is the foundation that ensures your hard work actually sticks around. Okay, Section 4, Real Millionaire Case Studies. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it demystifies these icons. It's fascinating to realize that figures like Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg do not rely on luck to build their empires. They rely on massive leverage and incredibly smart decision-making. We so often look at billionaires and subconsciously think, oh, they must simply work 100 times harder than the rest of us. But nobody has 100 times more hours in a day. They haven't found a way to cheat time. They've just applied those 4 pillars of leverage 100 times better than the average person. Breaking down the exact mechanics of their wealth reveals a really clear, repeatable pattern. Take Warren Buffett. He is the ultimate master of capital leverage, utilizing compound growth and making money work for him consistently for over 6 decades. Then you have Elon Musk, who relies heavily on people and technology leverage. From his earliest days at Zip2, his focus was on hiring the world's top engineers to build revolutionary, highly scalable products. Jeff Bezos built an empire heavily reliant on technology and automation. Early on at Amazon, he famously mandated that all teams must expose their data and functionality through service interfaces. That effectively turned the entire company into one massive automated technological system. And Zuckerberg? He leveraged technology and content, creating an online ecosystem where billions of users generate the valuable content entirely for free. Their immense success comes from systemic leverage, not just rolling up their sleeves and working 100-hour weeks. Let's bring this all home with Section 5, your 10-year wealth blueprint. Let's move to and see how this builds into a realistic, long-term trajectory for someone starting entirely from zero. This framework plays out over a decade. Year 1 is all about your foundation, acquiring those high-income builder or persuader skills and locking in your frictionless daily habits. Year 2 is where you deploy those skills for direct income growth strategies, basically getting paid a premium for the superior value you now provide the market. Years 3 to 5, that's where the actual magic happens with business and investment expansion. You start stacking those multiple income streams and actively applying people and tech leverage to detach your time from your earnings. And then years 5 through 10 focus heavily on massive wealth accumulation, where you step back and let compound interest and capital leverage do the heavy lifting for you. This is very much a marathon, not an overnight sprint. Ultimately, this source material completely shatters the hustle culture myth once and for all. Wealth comes from solving bigger problems, creating more value using leverage, and building systems consistently over a long period of time. It absolutely does not come from simply working more hours than the person sitting next to you. You literally cannot outwork a fundamentally bad strategy, but you can leverage a smart one to incredible heights. As we wrap up this explainer, the framework leaves us with an immediate, practical challenge to apply the Pareto principle today. What is the 20% of your day that will actually build your future? Stop focusing on being busy and start focusing on being ruthlessly effective. Identify that 20%, apply leverage to it, and start architecting your wealth. Thank you so much for exploring this with me, and I'll catch you on the next one.